everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome back to another edition of the Ad Podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest for you guys. Kacy Cole is the Chief Marketing Officer of Holland Cruise Lines. She's recently also taken over the Seabourn brand within that collection of lines. Prior to Holland, she led marketing and had leadership roles at influencer platforms like to Know It, T-Mobile, and we met way back in the day at Tommy Bahama. Kacy, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a little while.
It has. It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Well, I've been following all of your success and all of the great work that you've been doing over at Holland. But maybe, I know I gave a little bit of a background, but a lot of the folks who tune into the show are young people wanting to break into the industry. So would love to hear a little bit about your origin story. Where'd you grow up? What got you into marketing? And maybe a few of the key inflection points in your career, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, thank you. I originally am from San Antonio, Texas. I have lived in, almost 25 cities throughout the course of my life, moving for either work or for with family when I was young. But Texas, I consider home. I graduated with an art history degree, and then went back to school to get an MBA in international business. And I'd done basically media for the first few years. And when I came out, I'm going to date myself when I say it was the .com days.
Nice.
And the internet was really the Wild West, where you were fighting over domain names and things like that. And so they're really looking for people with publishing background. So that's where I really transitioned into digital and came up on the performance marketing side. And about 12 years ago, I got into the consumer space and really built out my brand muscle. And that's really what I have been focused on, is really bringing performance and brand together to make really strong marketing.
Yeah, which is a huge topic these days. The kind of the seesawing of is it performance, is it brand, or is it somewhere in the middle? And how does AI play into all of it?
Yes, I'm going to definitely say both. I think we've swung a little far over on performance, where, you really need soul and heart as well as the mind. And so, it's nice to see that, but they need to complement one another and not compete. So I think that's what's been the fun part.
Sure. I love it. And you've also spent a lot of time within kind of luxury categories or high-end brands. What kind of pulled you into that category, and how is it different marketing a luxury product than other consumer products or other brands out there?
Yeah, I actually started on the performance side. So I came up through digital, and at the time, retail, when I entered that space, was really what was called omni-channel. It probably is pretty mainstream now, but at the time, it was really about bringing the website and your stores, and for Tommy Bahama, also restaurants. And so it was really around, how do you have a more cohesive experience for the guest? And so that was my first entrance into really like lifestyle marketing, and thinking about how you do more than just drive performance, but really tell a story. And I think that's where luxury, you influence more than you sell, and you really bring people into what you stand for, or what you represent. And so I think that lifestyle approach is so much of where the luxury space still remains. But the brand has really shifted to be more about experience now. And I think that's what's so exciting. It's more than just digital. It's really about the experience at every customer touch point that a guest has. And so how do you really bring that to life in a meaningful way?
Yeah, that's interesting. So how do you think about that in your marketing at Holland? So you have the consumer journey of trying to, get people to spend one of the top discretionary things that millennials travelers are saying is the number one thing that they will not cut back on no matter what, unless they absolutely have to. The last thing on their agenda is travel. But there's also a lot of options. So How do you think about that consumer journey when your customers are in funnel considering your brand, but then once you get them on such an amazing opportunity like a long voyage on a
Mhm.
cruise ship, then you've got multiple touch points with them in room and around the ship that you can do different marketing tactics with partners and others. So how do you think about that full funnel?
Mhm. Well, I think I'm an honorary millennial because I also do not want to cut back on my travel of all the things. It is one of my top passions, so I totally understand that and appreciate it. I think that I mean, when you think about travel, you've made your booking, then you want to have your entire onboard experience, which is everything from drink packages to shore excursions to the entertainment to really being on board. So there's multiple journeys within the larger customer experience. But it is such a cool opportunity to connect with the guest across so many different avenues. And you do need to be really comprehensive and have a solid understanding and delivery of the brand. But I think what makes it really cool for Holland America is the brand has been around for over 150
Mm,
years. Like you won't find a brand. I think there's one brand that has a year, maybe more than we do. But we have 150 years of history and really bringing that and that expertise to cruising. So I think where we've taken the approach with Holland is anyone can get you from A to B. Anyone can take you to Rome or to Alaska, et cetera. But it's really what happens between the destination. And it's really where we came up with our tagline around Savor the
mm.
Journey is that the experience is as important as the destination. So we've really heavily invested into what guests want on board so that, yes, they're in port all day and sometimes evenings or overnights, but when they're on the ship, we are filling that time with the things that are really important to them and the most relevant to the itinerary versus just flooring it to get to the next destination, right? So it's really the entire experience and savoring every
I
moment.
love that. It's interesting in the travel category right now. You have, airlines are back to pre-pandemic levels, probably maybe a little bit more.
Mhm.
Hotel occupancy is similar, but the hockey stick growth you see is in experiences. So, what do
Mhm.
you do and what do you eat when you get to where you're going?
Mhm.
A lot of
Mhm.
travel companies, like airlines, for instance, it's kind of, I don't think people pick airlines so much. They pick it based on loyalty, maybe a little bit
Mhm.
of the experience, but most people don't love the fact that they have to get on an airplane for however many hours. It's just a means to an end to get to the destination. Some are better, some are worse,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
you guys have this interesting where you're a blend of like you're the travel, the means of getting from point A to point Z, like you said, but you're also the
Mhm.
hospitality partner. Um, how do you guys think about like what are how do you use that opportunity, like you said, to design those amazing experiences for the guests between locations? What are
Mhm.
some cool examples?
Yeah. Well, we just partnered with, for example, the History Channel
Mm,
to curate itineraries and shore excursions that allow you to experience history more so than ever before. So, besides the access and the storytelling, it's how do we pull that through the whole itinerary? Another example that I love to give and share is that we did research, heavy research, our first year on the guests, looking at third party data and as well as primary research and customer insights. And what we found was that many guests for wellness and lifestyle were choosing fresh fish as part of their restaurant choices, as part of their shopping choices. And so we partnered and launched through a redistribution of our supply chain a fresh fish program that allows guests to have fresh fish port to plate in less than 48 hours and 80 ports around the world, which is pretty amazing. If you think about a local restaurant getting fresh fish in 48 hours, doesn't happen so much. Imagine the complexities of a cruise line. We also partnered with Responsible Fisheries Management, which is now certified seafood, to get an accreditation to be the first and only cruise line to be accredited in sustainably sourced fresh fish. And so really, I think, I could tell it. We also were on Top Chef and all kinds of great things about telling that fresh fish story. But when I say it was transformational for the guests and for our business, is a complete understatement for us. Guests really, they already had pretty high table stakes about what they wanted from food and beverage. So really leaning into that has, I think something like 70% of the dishes that we serve in Alaska or Northern Europe is fresh fish. And so it's been really an exciting thing, and guests have loved it, like loved it completely. So I think thinking a little more out of the box when it comes to how to deliver that experience. It's not just a partner where you're exchanging logos. It's really how can you bring in an experiential component that can really enhance what you're providing to the guest, or think a little differently or outside the box around accreditations, awards, like how you bring something to market that maybe your industry hasn't traditionally played in. And so I think those are just a couple of examples where we've really, I hate to use the word innovated the experience as much as really aligned the experience to really celebrate what is super important to
Yeah,
our
that's
guests.
amazing. The seafood thing, it seems so, obvious that, oh, you're on a boat, you'll be able to get access to fresh seafood. But
Mhm.
so logistically, is that basically you guys have to work with local partners and pick up supply at each
Mhm.
port, and then it's almost like you're also getting like the farm to table experience, right? Because you're getting fish from the regions that you're, cruising through essentially, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's a great point for us is, the one onboard product that influenced bookings we learned in our research was food and bev. And so our guests really over-index. They want their food and their beverages, localized, and tasting local dishes, regional, seasonal. So as the fresh fish was our first step into that, we've launched also what we call Made Fresh Daily, which is our breads and all our pasta are made fresh on board every single day so that guests can really, again, have that freshness. But we also launched a destination dining program, which is really about how do we pull seasonal things like the white asparagus that only has a 6 to 8 week region in France, and you can taste it on board. Or sourcing local chickpeas from Turkey and really having that fresh hummus. So celebrating dishes and ingredients. So you're really experiencing your itinerary through food and bev.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that. So
It's delicious, I'm not
now
gonna
I
lie.
know I can't. I mean, you're making me hungry right now. I think I need to go take a look at the itinerary, because that's something that, in full transparency, I've never been on a cruise. I had a Holland cruise. I had the deposits paid for it, actually, for a client entertaining event, and it was going to be amazing. We were going to go to Alaska. We had
Oh,
yeah, we
wow.
had like, staterooms with butlers reserved, and I was like really looking forward to it. But
Mm.
unfortunately, we ended up losing that client and we had to cancel the trip. But I am very much looking forward to going on a cruise. And I feel like there's certain destinations like Alaska, the Greek
Mhm.
islands, like that leads me to an interesting question. Are there certain travel itineraries and certain regions of the world that you feel like cruising is the ultimate option? You shouldn't do it any other way or consider it another
Mhm.
way other than taking a cruise.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's clearly destinations where the best way to see it is by cruise ship. So I think Alaska is a great example where you can travel by land, but you really won't see as much. And so the exciting thing with a place like Alaska, or Northern Europe, for example, you can unpack once and see multiple destinations. But also, for example, we've been sailing to Alaska before it was even a state. So we have really deep relationships with communities and really embedded ourselves in Alaska, where we actually now have hotels and our lodge right at the gates of Denali. We've got train now that takes you between land and sea. And so I think leaning on a cruise partner, especially someone like Holland America who has that tenure, they bring a certain expertise and they really take care of we take care of all the details for you, versus when you're planning your own trip, right? So I think that the inherent value of a cruise line for certain regions is there. I think it's really a lifestyle. I
Mm.
think a lot of people wanna slow down. They wanna get on board, and what happens if you're going down the Italian Riviera between these beautiful port cities, you also have an onboard experience that's relaxed and you're being taken care of, by us, and particularly if you're doing somewhere new, like one of our legendary, where you're going, for 2 to 3 months and you're really experiencing multiple destinations. That's the nice thing about cruising, and certainly with Holland America, is it's we really just try to slow down and enjoy and savor those moments. And I think that's the nice thing. No one wants to come back from vacation feeling like they need another vacation. So I think being on a cruise line, you really get the chance to unwind and relax, in addition to actually celebrating, a milestone, or just, going somewhere to check it off a bucket list. You get to really have that experience. And I think that's the really neat thing about cruising in
I
particular.
love that. So it wouldn't be a marketing podcast without me asking you a question about AI. But how are you practically leveraging AI in the function as a CMO? Where is it having the most impact on your side of the business?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And yes, it is the question du jour, I think. What I would say is where we've had, I think obviously we're just scratching the surface, but we have really been utilizing it across more, I would say, marketing efficiency. So a good example I like to share is that, as I mentioned, our partnership with the History Channel, and we've been able to leverage AI to tell or to show the Colosseum what it looked like back then versus today, which you're going to experience with us, and how we help bring that to life. So I think it's been wonderful in terms of storytelling. So we've gotten more efficient. We're able to do more for less, obviously, but it's also like improved quality in the way in which we can connect with prospective guests. So I think we're using it heavily on the creative, on the process. I think the opportunity on the efficiency side is really, instead of us being in our own little silos using AI, how do we collectively as a team utilize it to make us stronger, better, faster? So I think, like, really from a marketing standpoint, I think we're just using it primarily right now as efficiency and learnings. We are building, like, for example, profiles that look similar to our guests, so that we can actually do some research,
Mm.
and combine it. So we're testing a lot of new
Is that
things.
the
I think the opportunity.
is that the concept of like an AI twin where you can expose creative to this panel of like virtual customers essentially that are similar? Like you can use it for all sorts of things, but you basically have a model of your existing audience, and then you can use that for different research. Okay,
Exactly.
got it.
Yeah, I think I've heard it called like synthetic customer or something like that, but it's really, our guests are very engaged and involved, so we are always putting things in front of them. But I think when we're trying to get to the versions that we want to put in front of them, how can we precede some of that with these AI, like synthetic audiences, to give us a good feel of, like, we have 6 options, how do we narrow down to 2? And the 2 are the ones we want to put in front of real guests. So I think there's huge opportunities and across the marketing spectrum. I think the bigger opportunity, which is where every company is trying, is to impact the guest
Mm.
experience. And so I think this is really interesting for, we have really 5 core audiences that our average age is actually in the 40s. But as you get into longer cruise lines, obviously those people are retired and have more time. And so we have cruising can be complicated. So we have a guest who really likes to engage with people. So I think the opportunity to really build out solutions that give, an older demographic that same type of communication, because obviously chatbots can't really do that today. So how do we bring that same level of personalization and the ability to ask questions, have conversation, and connect with the brand through I think is really what's exciting to me, to bring that digital element to an older demographic, right?
Mm.
Who traditionally maybe would call or use, somebody directly, right? So I think we're not there yet, obviously, and everybody's trying and testing things, as are we. But I think what's really exciting is it only is going to enhance the experience. And so that I think is what's most important. Like maybe we have a historical figure that we are able to, through all of that, you can have a conversation with Einstein or Marcus Aurelius or something. Again, that's like more fun and a little more brand side. But I think overall, the opportunity to enhance both on board and through our marketing and pre-cruising channels through AI is absolutely there. I think it's really learning which one works the
Wow,
best.
that's exciting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves, especially with that older demographic who's maybe more used to picking
Mhm.
up the phone or kind of doing it the old-fashioned way.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned integrations in the TV show Top Chef. How are you
Mhm.
thinking about branded content and the idea that people more often than
Mhm.
ever are skipping commercials and they want to see brands add value to content and be worth watching versus things that they kind of get interrupted by in order to get to the main course that they're trying to find. But how are you thinking about getting your brand into non-skippable environments?
Yeah. I think we've done quite a bit of like we really want to fish where the
Mm,
fish are. So I think a big part of us, like we know for our guest with that insight of like food and beverage is the most important onboard product. We're always looking for contextual ways to bring things to life, right? So whether that is through like a Top Chef show where we really got to celebrate and show our chops in the culinary space, to even Wheel of Fortune's one where we've been last year, we launched Cruise Week with them. And it was really a celebration of cruising and really like telling these really fun stories in a way that connects with our audience. So I think that in addition to just serving ads, it really is that editorial component and being able to work with different media partners or handily different brand partners to bring things to life. And I think that's where History Channel again is a great example for us. We've been able to really tell stories of our roots in Europe and UNESCO heritage sites, which are super important to our guests, and that whole kind of history that Americans want to see when they're in Europe. And so I think it's just finding the right partner and understanding where your guest is and how you can best connect those two.
that's awesome. Well, Kacy, I know we're coming to the end of our time together today. I feel like I could spend a lot more time asking you tons of questions, but I want to make sure I get you off to your next meeting on time. So, with that, if there are brands or folks who are listening today and this really resonated with them and they want to reach out and talk to you about partnerships, or if you want to send people somewhere to learn more, where would you like to send the audience?
Yeah, I think if they wanna go to hollandamerica.com, or they could certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn, I would be more than happy to, and connect with our agency. And, we have never lacked in conversation, so it was really fun today for me to reconnect with you, and, we always have such a great time chatting, and I wish I had more time to, good time.
Totally fine. Well, we'll see you again soon, Kacy. I'll go ahead and put you backstage and let you get on with your day. Thank you so much for coming on. All right, everybody. So, really appreciate you tuning in with my conversation with Kacy. She is an amazing marketer. I haven't even got into our conversation around the fact that she's an avid fly fisherman. I need to learn more about that. Fly fishing is something that I have wanted to do, but I'm always curious of how people's personal passions kind of play into their just life as a marketer and kind of their thought process and how they approach creativity. But I love what she's doing at Holland. I'm definitely going to be checking them out. So, for those of you, if you are seeing the show for the very first time today, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe wherever you happen to be watching the show. And then also, if you are listening to the show on a podcasting platform, if you give us an honest review wherever you happen to be listening today, that's how the show finds a wider, more organic audience. Last but not least, we always love for people to pay the fee and share the show with a friend. If there is a travel marketer out there, somebody in the luxury space, or just somebody who you think would really benefit from the conversation that I had with Kacy today, don't forget to share the show. And with that, I will see you again actually later tonight. We have a 4 p.m. show with a chief creative officer from a really cool agency that you're not going to want to miss. So don't forget to tune in again tonight at 4 p.m. and I will see you then.